John Berman with Kate Baldwin here. Major breaking news. Just moments ago, President Trump said that a person is in custody in connection to the killing of conservative activist Charlie Kirk. 4 sources tell CNN that authorities do have someone, and they are questioning that person right now.
And the wording here, of course, matters, and it has all along. At any moment now, the FBI is going to be holding a news conference to update us on these major developments. Let's play for you. There's a live look in the room in Utah. Let's play for you now what we heard from the president, what he said just earlier on Fox News.
Somebody that's close recognizes even a little tilt of the head, which nobody else would do. And somebody that was very close to him said, that's him. And essentially went to the father, and went to a U.S. Marshal, who was fantastic, by the way. And the person was involved with law enforcement, but was a person of faith, a minister. And brought him to a U.S. Marshal, who was fantastic. And the father convinced the son, this is it. And again, I'm always subject to be corrected, but you know, I'm just giving you, based on what I'm hearing, they'll give you a much more active. I just heard about it 5 minutes before I walked in. As I'm walking in, they said, looking real good.
Worth saying, as John noted earlier, how extraordinary it is to have the president laying this out before the official announcement coming from law enforcement. As you heard him say, this is just what I'm hearing, but still, we have a lot to come. We have team coverage on this major breaking news. Let's begin with CNN's Evan Perez. And Evan, you have been working your sources all throughout the night. Even before we heard this from the president, you guys were getting information coming in. Lay out what you've learned and how this capture came about.
Well, it appears somewhere late last night, some of this started going down. The father, as the president just laid out there just a few minutes ago on Fox News, the father notified authorities, the U.S. Marshals in this case, and said that he had believed that his son was the person who matched the description in those images that were released by authorities yesterday, and that he had spoken to his son and believed that the son was indeed the shooter. Now, I don't know whether the son made statements that confirmed this or confessed, but that's the rendering that was told to authorities. And so the U.S. Marshals notified some of the other investigative agencies, the FBI, the Utah Department of Public Safety, and they went to pick him up. And this is in southern Utah. This is some distance away from there, but again, driving distance from where this shooting occurred. And over the period of hours, in the overnight hours, the investigators have questioned him. Now, we don't know whether he said anything, whether he has made any additional statements, but certainly the father's account, from what he talked to his son, anything he may have gotten from his son will be key part of this as well, if the son is not cooperating. Again, there's a lot we do not know at this hour, but certainly the release of those images appears to have finally been the key thing. The video, certainly releasing the video late last night, may have actually gotten this to where they were able to get the right tip to bring this person in. So the question I think we'll all be asking later on is, you know, should that have been done earlier? Certainly, because we are now a couple of days into this manhunt. But the U.S. Marshals became part of this manhunt yesterday afternoon, and so now all of these agencies have been working to try to confirm and try to verify some of this evidence. Kate and John, you know, obviously they collected DNA evidence where they could. They have the footprint, they have the converse footprint there on the ground, they have the forearm image there that they took from the rooftop where he was prone when he allegedly fired the shot. So all of those things are being done. The DNA evidence is of course going to be key. We expect that that's probably maybe a few hours away from being the work being done there. So all of that stuff was happening overnight, and certainly this is the biggest break they've had. Now, the warning, of course, that the president even himself is cautioning everybody, because they've had a few false starts in this investigation. You remember, of course, the FBI director went out, tweeted that they had received, that they had, I believe they had arrested the shooter, and that turned out to not be true. So we'll see at this new press conference that is coming up in the next few minutes whether this is indeed the shooter that they have. But certainly they feel this is the best, they feel that they have the right person based on those images, based on the father and the statements that have been made by the father about what he heard from his son. I think that's why they have a feeling they have the right person.
Do we have Nick Watt for us in Utah? We're getting live pictures back from the room right now. You can see them setting up the news conference. Well, we have Nick before he has to go sit down. Let me just get a sense, Nick, of the atmosphere on the scene there as we've been getting this information from the President of the United States that they believe they have a suspect in custody.
Well, obviously, anticipation. We are waiting to get more information. We are waiting for the opportunity to ask questions, to try and fill out some more of the details, to add to that fantastic reporting that Evan was just giving you on air now. I would guess that by the level of preparation, this is not going to start.
At least 30 minutes, possibly.
Just hearing now, it's going to be at least 30 minutes, John, before this press conference starts here on the campus in Orem, Utah, where we will be getting more information. We expect that Kash Patel, the director of the FBI, will be here. I imagine that the governor of Utah might be here. Of course, the Utah Public Safety will be here. And they have in the past given us information, and they have also taken a limited number of questions. So we are hoping to get that chance to fill out, to ask questions, to really get more of a picture, more of an idea of how this transpired. John?
Absolutely.
Yeah, the news, I don't think it's surprising, frankly. Nick Watt, thank you very much. I don't think it's surprising that officials have pushed this back a few minutes. If they have a suspect in custody,
Right.
if they are questioning that person, they've got to get everything lined up because this needs to be meticulous the way they release this information.
Absolutely. Let's bring back in Andy McCabe right now. Andy, one piece of reporting from Evan Perez and the team that I wanted to get your take on is this. It's two sources said that the man confessed to his father that he was the shooter. His father told authorities and said he had secured his son until they could arrive to pick him up. Just your take on that fact, because it's fascinating to me what it could say about this suspect, that it ended this way rather than, as Davis was pointing out, it goes one of two ways. It goes like this, or it ends up with a shootout.
Yeah, it's really remarkable set of facts there, and I guess there's a lot of room for interpretation into what secured his son means. But
Right.
It could be that he was not fully on board with the idea of turning himself in yet, and it's possible his father took some steps to physically restrain him, or just sat with him, counseled him, and kind of stayed with him, occupied his attention and his time until the authorities could arrive. So I'm sure we'll find out the details of that eventually, but likely not today. So it's a heart. You hear the details that are emerging, and what it paints is this heartbreaking picture of a parent trying to do the right thing under the law, the right thing morally, which they know will could have the absolute worst consequences for their own child. So it's just another chapter in the absolute tragedy, the tragic disaster of this whole attack. It's hard, it reminds me a lot, Kate, of the situation that led to the apprehension of the Unabomber so many years ago, right? He had been living in isolation by himself, totally off the grid for years. He wrote that manifesto, sent it to the media. The bold decision was made to publish it exactly for this same purpose. This was like a precursor to the idea of crowdsourcing when we didn't even know that word. It was let's publish this thing because someone might recognize what he says in it. And that absolutely happened. The Unabomber's brother read the manifesto, was able to identify it as things that his brother had said to him in the past, and ultimately turned him into the authorities. So it seems like a Hail Mary pass in each one of these cases. But boy, it really landed in this one. The crowdsourcing worked, and a family member stood up and did the right thing. So it's It's dramatic, it's compelling, but we have to keep an eye on the fact that it's also a deep tragedy for yet another family.
We should note we've now got a larger team here helping us cover this, joined at this very table with high-powered legal and investigatory help. John Miller, first to you. I saw you taking notes. It always makes me think you've got some new information on this.
I totally agree.
What do you got?
Nothing new. I mean, we're at a stage where we're waiting, but there is a process and there is some psychology behind this. You know, when this happened with a family member coming forward and saying, we think it's, you know, our son, that harkens back to Luigi Mangione and the assassination of the United Healthcare president. We know the story of, you know, a woman in McDonald's who's a waitress, you know, calling police and saying there's two guys who say that looks like the guy. Much less attention to the wheels that were turning in the background. His mother had reported him as a missing person in San Francisco because she couldn't get in touch with him. That picture was out there. Family members contacted San Francisco police, who reached out to the San Francisco FBI, that called the New York FBI, and they were actually working up the package on this Luigi Mangione as a possible suspect, a lookalike, and someone who had gone off the grid. In a case like this, with the parents coming forward, the press conference last night, the images going out, it becoming clearer and clearer, and we don't know what it was. Was it you just know your son even if he's wearing a hat and sunglasses? Did they say those are those gray Converse that, you know, he wears around the house? But was it what was going on in the background of his life? But the information that he's made statements and admissions to police, you know, also fits in with there is a conflict among these actors, and you can go back through history with different shooters, snipers, assassins. They want to get away because nobody wants to go to jail. But there's another part of them that's usually fighting, which is they want to claim responsibility. We call it responsibility. They want to get credit for what they did. You know, they want to get credit for the planning, the execution, both literally and figuratively. And, you know, that conflict is the kind of thing that plays into making them talk. What we're going to expect today, and this is, you know, more Ellie's area, because there's been some discussion this morning about, well, how much would they put out? How much should they put out? This is happening quickly, not an investigation going on behind the scenes where they could go to a grand jury and secure an indictment. We're going to see a complaint, whether it's a federal complaint or state complaint, and that is where they have to put in the key pieces of information, not all of it, but the most important parts to a judge to establish probable cause. So we're likely to get a lot of detail.
Yeah, so first of all, I think the fact, as is being reported, that this person made statements to the father is hugely significant, because guess what? All of that is admissible against him in court. The second question, which John touched on, is if this person is making an additional statement now to the police. He's in custody, presumably, hopefully he's been given his Miranda rights before he made that statement to the police, but you're building your case. Now, when somebody gets behind that podium, I think what they're going to do is certainly tell us where he's been charged, right? Yeah. Could be state, could be federal, as we discussed earlier, could be both. Wouldn't surprise me at all if it's both simultaneous. You're allowed to do that legally, what he's been charged with, and then there's the question of how much detail do they give us about their case. Typically in a scenario like this, especially a high-profile scenario, you'd give quite a bit. I think, excuse me.
As a prosecutor, are you happy with that, though?
Yeah, I think, well, look, as a prosecutor, you would want nobody to say anything, but you have to be realistic here. There's such enormous public interest in this that I think they're going to want to assure us and the public that they have the right guy and that their case is ironclad. So I would look for a good bit of detail. If they have a preliminary DNA match, I would expect them to say that. I would certainly expect them to say if the person has made admissions of guilt, either to the police or to family members. So I think we're going to learn all of this soon.
From what we know, obviously, we're about to learn a lot more. From what we know, how good is the case against this person?
Well, it's going to depend, right? I want to see, do they have DNA? Do they have a ballistics match? We know they recovered the rifle.
Yeah, we haven't had the result of that, right? Like,
no.
Other than the question on what was engraved on these ballistics, right?
The thing with the rifle is they wanted to do all the other forensics on the rifle. The search for DNA, the search for skin cell DNA prints, which they didn't come up with before they did the ballistics part, because firing the rifle again, which is how you make that ballistic match, is going to alter your ability to collect those other things. Suffice it to say, we expect that they've recovered the bullet that killed Charlie Kirk. We know that they've recovered a rifle that they think had something to do with it, and we know the shell casing is still in the chamber, and there's 3 additional rounds, which is where they recovered this writing. The story of the gun, if it's not forensic, is going to trace to who purchased it when. It's an old gun. It's probably purchased a long time ago. That record may or may not be available. But where you have a family involved, they may say, we know that's Dad's old hunting rifle, or that was Grandpa's, or we know that weapon. So a lot of this is coming together right now. What's happening also right now is, this is not, they picked him up and brought him in. As Ellie will tell you, there are multiple search warrants going on. Some of them are physical. They're going to be going through his home, his house, wherever he stays. They're going to be going, these are also search warrants. They'll get a search warrant for his Facebook, for his Instagram, for his phone, for his computer, and they'll be going through the contents of those the same way you would search a house. They'll look back through everything. All of those things will play into the case that they're developing, and probably, because of the time it takes to do that, not play into the document we'll see today. Today will be the basic probable cause of 2 things. We think it's him, and here's why. Last night, the governor said something very interesting when he said, we are in the process of writing that complaint, drawing up these charges now without a suspect, which is based on what occurred and how that's a violation of the law. It would be like a fill in the blanks once we figure out who that person is. So they're building on that today.
I want to follow up with what John Miller was just talking about right there, about what's happening at this very moment.
Yeah.
Let's just bring people back up to speed where we are right now. It is 9:09 Eastern Time. There is a news conference scheduled, now delayed a bit in Utah.
Yep.
FBI and state officials, we expect now, will announce what President Trump said just a few moments ago, that they have someone in custody in the investigation, this manhunt into the person who assassinated Charlie Kirk.